Big changes in the silver and gold sector. We have an exclusive story this morning regarding Wall Street Silver, that organic community that grew out of the silver squeeze. Big changes within that Reddit community. I'm joined by John Little. We're going to talk about that today. He knows a lot on the subject, but also we have a big warning, a big concern about what's going on in the silver and gold sector. We're going to talk to you about that as well. John, thanks for joining me again here in Ron's Basement.
Oh, it's always my honor. I've just been devouring your videos. And again, it's just to be in the basement next to the unicorn and the gorilla. It will hit the $2,500 number for sure.
Big party when gold hits $2,500.
Yeah, you've been following this story. We've had a chance to go on some other networks, but we feel more that you listen and are more aligned with our mission. So I'm real honored to be with you and your awesome fans. So thanks. Let's get going. I can get right into this. Unless you have a question.
I wanted to point out to the viewers, we've got big changes at Wall Street Silver, and that's a huge community, right? I think 260,000 members.
Yeah, it grew. It had the Wall Street Bets sort of launched the meme stocks like GameStop and AMC. And there was a shout out saying, well, this could probably work with silver, given the fact that you and I discussed 2 weeks ago, the shortage of silver, and that it is a historically shorted position by usually bankers. So an opportunity emerged, and the Wall Street Bets guy kind of said, we don't want you talking about silver on our stock channel. So they ended up starting their own thing, and it did mushroom into a significant movement, organic, where people were allowed to, the idea was let's all stack physical silver and drain the inventories, thus silver raising in prices or calling these people on their naked short positions. So it was a very smart movement, and it started off sincere. And then what happened is the founders, and I'm not going to drop names, people can research this, but they sort of launched a GoFundMe scheme that was intended to do a variety of things like buy media, outdoor media, internet ads, grow the movement. The funds, and there was supposed to be this ledger that everyone could see, full transparency and accountability. No one could produce the ledger, the people in the moderating role. So that led to some red flags. And then there was all of a sudden, instead of talking about physical silver week after week after week on their YouTube channel, it seemed to be this pump and dump scheme for just various different obscure mining companies. So they took their eye off the ball. Then we found out later that they just didn't have the numbers. A lot of them were bots, and you can spend money, I guess, and have these bots retweet you all the time on Twitter. So the analogy I thought of was if I said I'm printing the Wall Street Journal and I go to Cadillac and Gucci and Audi and BMW and say, hey, we have a readership of 10 million. All of our people are high net worth people. All of our, they own 2 homes. They all have advanced degrees. And then you don't print the 10 million papers. You only print maybe 500 of them and just send them to Cadillac, to your advertisers, and act like these are my demographics, but they're not your demographics because you don't have that reach because you paid for that reach through bots. So they stole that money from fleeced from the miners, fleeced from the silver citizens. And then there was another layer of fleecing on this minted coin that they produced. They were supposed to share that proceeds. And it was over 500,000 in revenue there that they didn't share. So it totaled over $1 million. And worse than that, and that's pretty egregious given how small the silver market is. But worse than that is it left a bad taste in the mouth of the sponsors as well as the stackers. So as of yesterday, some of the original moderators, and you've
let me interject quickly.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Because no, it's okay. No, I just want to mention, I think it's a real shame that you had this organic community of people that were interested in growing awareness of silver. People, individuals donated money. I think, like you said, on many levels, people felt, it's hard enough to educate people on silver and gold for that matter. But then when you have situations like this, which at its very base root was a grassroots movement to support silver and gold, that it wound up this way. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, I had a couple companies tell me, companies that I own stock in, companies that I was interested in working with, that said, we're holding off. We got burnt by Wall Street silver. We had a bad experience. And that's a fact. And that's the truth. And it's just a real shame that it took that turn. But there is some good news. And before I cut you off, I think you were going to allude to that about what's transpired regarding some of the original people coming back and taking over.
Well, I'm really glad you interjected that, because it seems like you're discovering a pattern, and I think we should touch on that pattern because it goes to the.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go there a little bit and then come back to what you just said.
Okay.
If only 0.5% of U.S. citizens believe that silver and gold are a worthwhile investment, because there's all the other asset classes have done pretty well. Because when you print a lot of money, that money printing sort of flows into equity markets and real estate markets, and people have choices for where they hold their wealth. So it's always been an uphill battle since, at least since Nixon closed the gold convertibility option to get people to invest in gold and silver. So the last thing you want is to have this outcropping of thieves and bandits and fraudsters and villains say they have some version of gold, whether it's in a fund or in some other manifestation or business plan. And then they usually target the elderly. They usually do so on TV ads. There was a guy named Lucas Asher, fashioned himself as sort of a sunshade wearing, leather coat, rock and roller. He had a company called Barrett Capital or Chase Metals. They always kind of give you these confusing names. And there was a character named Tyler Gallagher of Regal Assets. Yeah. And I did a story on him. There's 10 of these citizens just recently. So they're targeting the elderly. And if it leaves that kind of stain, think how much harder than the people that are reputable have to work then to remove that tarnished reputation. So circling back to Wall Street, go ahead.
And you bring up a great point. I've been in this business now for about a year and a half, and I've been presented with, tens of 40, 50, 60 different sponsorship opportunities or affiliate programs. And without exception, everyone that I've looked into, I think, well, I wouldn't do business myself with this company, so I'm not going to represent it to my audience, because you are dealing with elderly people. You are dealing with another segment of the population that are unsophisticated investors that don't understand. And I think that those people are being taken advantage of. And I want to emphasize, I think, a point that you made, right? Like gold and silver are already fighting an uphill battle, right? And there's this, I don't know if it's an organized effort, but this overall message, I guess we'll say, that we get generally in society, that gold and silver are used by bandits and pirates and drug dealers and the Wagner Group and the fact that unfortunately there's a segment, not everybody, right? There's a lot of great people in this business, right? And I'd like to think that I'm one of them. I'm not perfect, but I'd like to think that I'm one of them. But we're almost playing into what the general message is out there. Like, we're already fighting an uphill battle. And then you've got all these conflicts of interest that I tend to see. People, engaging in price gouging, scams, hustles, pump and dump scams on penny stocks. And it's like we're playing into the message that oh yeah, gold and silver are, it's a I don't know the right way to phrase it, but it's a dirty area, and you don't want to buy gold and silver, right? That's what the general message. Obviously, when 1 out of 300 people or whatever the number is in the United States own gold and silver, there's not a lot of awareness, and what I fear is that we could be running down like we're almost like crypto, like Sam Bankman-Fried type situation where all of a sudden, if the government really wants to, they could come in and say, oh my God, look at all this. We told you gold and silver were bad. Look at all this fraud and corruption going on. I'm done ranting.
Well, you could build that if a lot of these people, I think the story I wrote within the last 6 weeks was, I think my list was up to 10. And that's that I found through research of, I think I called it beware of gold and silver scams. And again, like you said, if we're fighting an uphill battle, we know that the people that don't want competition for their money is the Federal Reserve in the US government. They want to be the issuers of the paper note. It's always been that way. In the Bank of England, same thing. When they wrote that contract with King George, who wanted to fight France, the 40 businessmen did loan him the money so he could fight France. But in the contract, it said, we will now have the monopoly on issuing the currency. And that wasn't that long ago, like 200 years ago or so. Well, a little more than that. So that practice, like you say, we already have that uphill battle of fighting the Federal Reserve. So in a way, we are, like you say, we're sort of cannibalizing each other through that plan of let the villagers fight amongst themselves, and then they don't have to do anything. So it is a perfect analogy to bring up crypto. There's over 1,000 crypto products, right? Or even more. And most of them go to zero. The only ones that haven't so far really are Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then you see Richard Hart of Hex. He's always trending on Twitter. He'll show up every now and then buying Gucci, Rolex watches in these bizarre track suits and flaunting his wealth like he's some rapper with gold chains. And it's really gaudy, tacky, materialistic. And the optics are stupid. And he's almost saying, see, I ripped you off. Now come find me in Dubai, hiding behind it, So we're seeing that again. The other irony I've seen is with a lot of the gold and silver celebrities, I'm not dropping names, that I grew up, admiring because they were smart people and they did some great research in terms of looking at, trends on gold and silver and technical analysis and historical moving averages and Elliott waves and Fibonacci patterns and lines of resistance and all these sorts of technical things, as well as how silver does relative to the Dixie. And then I go and find out that a lot of these people also have launched their own weird side projects that aren't physical gold, but sort of representations of gold, almost like paper in a way. And it's funny because all they have spent their whole career bashing on Jamie Dimon, bashing on Jerome Powell, Janet Yellen, Christine Lagarde, any president they can find or Congress member. Yet if you say one thing about one of these celebrities, it's like hands off me, so it's kind of like, Well, like if you're in a glass house, you may not want to be throwing those stones around so frequently, or put away your slingshot. Yeah, you little whippersnapper. Anyway.
Well, yeah, it just gets me thinking. Like we're already fighting an uphill battle in this industry. We need help, right? We don't need you to steepen the hill for us. And when you have like what was the most pure grassroots movement within the silver sector. I was there at the silver squeeze, right? I was there, pretty early as a member of Wall Street Silver. It felt good. It was pure. When you have even something like that, it was able to get corrupted, right? Let's just say there was some corruption, scandal, and controversy. But now there's a new day. And I won't say, maybe new day is a bad way to say it. There's been a reclamation by some of the, is that an accurate way to say it? By some of the original
Yeah, some of the OG moderators, we could say
which
who they
stands for
are.
old guy, is that right? OG?
Original.
Original, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. No, these guys are the opposite of me.
I'm an OG, I'm an old guy.
Yeah, I'm you know, if half of these people found out I was a boomer, they would stop reading the pickaxe for good reason, because, you know, anyway. Yeah, so SilverDegenClub, you know, you've had Conrad and or Media and Illuminated Ape on, and there's a bunch of them that are just genius, like Mean Sergeant Spliff and Chief Banana Jamma. I mean, I don't want to name all the names because I'll forget a few and then bad on me. But the content over there is sort of going to be like this, where if you want edgy memes that are, think of like Mad Magazine before its time. It kind of offended some people because it was maybe, or even political cartoons at the turn of the century could offend people.
Sure.
We don't, you know, how certain art forms, Andy Warhol may have offended someone. We don't know. David Bowie, you're right. We can go on and on. So I'd say the edgy stuff will be on the SilverDegenClub channel. And then Wall Street Silver will just be only silver stacking pictures. Let's get away from the politics, get away from the hate speech, get away from anything that isn't, you know, just want to keep it really traditional. And I hate to use the word clean because that infers that Silver Degens are not. They're what they're trying to do is move the needle. And sometimes when you have a real serious topic like silver, you're talking about systemic risk, geopolitical risk, the dollar losing purchasing power. It's very sad news. So they try to do so with some humor, irreverence, and cynicism as a way to spark the attention of a young stacker. Because if this just stays with the boomers, what's going to happen when they go and the new generation isn't aware of silver and gold? They're just going to get into equity trades and crypto. So they do have a mission of sort of, that's why a lot of their memes look like video games and stuff like that. They're trying, it is a very well executed plan. But you had a question.
Let's Wall Street Silver. Let's say someone was involved with the group, involved with the original movement. They've been disheartened. What would your message be to them? Can they expect transparency?
Yes.
Can they expect
there will be, you won't see ads on Wall Street Silver, for example. There won't be, if they are, they're going to be sponsors that aren't tied to, you know, they're going to be sort of more, I hate to say the little guys, but I would say more like boutique industries. You know, there's some people out there that are just melting their own, doing ham pours, doing things like that. So it's not, it's more or less going to be like I hate to use the word grassroots now because that even has a stain on it. Let's just say that the community will remain true. It won't be a pump and dump scheme. You know,
less commercialized.
Correct. Yeah, I would say that it's been demonetized. That you know, and that way people don't feel like they're just pawns. If every day you got up and you were selling, you know, a deodorant, a cologne, some sort of news sheets for your bedding, and all of a sudden Ron's Basement turns into Ron's Garage Sale of you know, like a QVC channel. I think pretty soon you would start seeing some comments in the field like, hey, Ron, quit shilling the, you know, Ron's windows. These are double pane windows with low E glazing. Your house stays warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer with Ron's windows. Okay, back to our program. You know, you're not doing that. It would get a little bit annoying, right?
Well, you know, I don't have a problem with sponsorships or even, you know, affiliate programs that are
if you vet them.
Yeah, if you vet them, if
and
they're
they don't
legitimate.
hurt.
What you know what the big key is to me? Do you eat your own cooking? Right? Like I had a sponsor, and I'll have them again here toward the end of the year, a mining company that I'd actually made videos about for years before they sponsored me. Okay. And I've owned the stock, right? I've owned the stock. And what is to me a significant portion of my net worth is invested in that company. So do I feel okay talking about that company? Absolutely. Do I tell people that I don't have a crystal ball? And I would have told you a year ago that I thought it was a smart investment and you would have lost 40%, like all mining stocks. Absolutely. Right. Full transparency. So I think that there's nothing wrong with people in this business trying to sponsor things and make money, but like you said, have you vetted them? Is it something that you have put your own money into? Would you put your own money into, or are you just selling yourself out for anything that comes along? And I think that there's a fine line there to a certain extent. And I understand, because I get calls all the time. Hey, Ron, we'll pay you, $3,000-$4,000 to make a video about this company. And then I look into the company. I'm like, well, I wouldn't buy that stock in a million years. So I'm not going to promote it to my audience. Right. But it's hard to turn that down, because to me, $3,000 or $4,000 right now is a pretty good amount of money,
Yeah, it is for anyone. And there is let's say that's always tempting. I am a ghostwriter for some subscription services, and they do pitch you very aggressively, but there's things you got to look at. You want to see how much cash do they have on hand. You want to see how much of that do they burn through in a month. That's called their burn. That way they're not just raising money, then diluting the shares. Then, the other due diligence is, are they in a good jurisdiction? Let's just say we're talking about mining, recently Mexico banned open pit mining. Well, that's pretty risky, right?
Sure.
Whereas there's some, I wrote about a silver company that had some good ore grade in Nevada and New Mexico. And so those are safer jurisdiction wise. Then you want to look at their management team. Have they been able to, because only 1 in 2,000 mines ever make it to the market. So you want to make sure that even with this discovery, do they have the management team and business savvy to bring it to market? And lastly, is their geologist worth his weight in gold? I mean, you got to have a great geological team. So there's so many things. These penny stocks in general do not have that. They just have, you got to be real careful. So that's Ron. I think what you're saying when you said, would you invest in it, or will you eat your own cooking, is what I like to say. Do you have skin in the game? Right? Is that
sure? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a great.
Paradigm. We got way off subject, because we're here to announce the new day at Wall Street Silver. But I want to interject. What the heck? I'm going to go further off subject on you. The other thing that I see a lot of people make a mistake with is inside ownership. There'll be a tiny gold mining company, and they'll say, oh, this wealthy individual owns 20% of the company, or the CEO owns 15% of the stock, which is not bad. Okay, I'm not saying that's bad, but I think where people make a big mistake is, what's more important to me is how much of the CEO's personal net worth is invested in the company. Because you can have a CEO who owns 25% of the company's stock, and that might equal $5 million. Now, that's $5 million is a lot of money, but if the guy's worth $800 million, that's a big difference between a CEO that has $1 million in the company, right? A lot less, but he's only worth 1.5 million, right? He's got 2/3 of his personal net worth in the company. I personally would rather be with the guy who only has $1 million in, but it equals 2/3 of his net worth. Anyway, I got
that's relevant, because I think we're allowed. I think I know who you're alluding to. There's a billionaire in Canada. It sounds like, and he owns every silver and gold company, a little bit of it, and they all say, we've got him to invest, and they all drop the name like, well, if he's in, then I should get in too.
Right.
It's just, So I got you. Let's get back to Wall Street Silver. I really like the way you think though, Ron. You said that this is just an anecdotal situation that happened to be a very popular movement and touched all of our daily routines and social media experiences. But if we can take a bigger lesson out of it, like, why are we cannibalizing each other? You know, why is the infighting? It could lead to undermining the very thing we believe in, which is honest money. And then why are we tolerating dishonesty? So to me, those seem like incongruent themes fighting each other. So philosophically, we have to just sort of transcend above that and say, let's warn each other, or let's do our due diligence before we just are gullible folks.
Yeah.
And I think your people are savvy, and they, you know, the whole idea, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And that's sort of a good basic rule of thumb.
Yeah. Well, I think the issue is, you know, we have an industry that likes to run around saying, look at what the Fed's doing. They're, you know, they're look at what the government's doing. They're, you know, the monetary and fiscal situation is horrible, and you need to have pure, honest money. But then when you peel the covers back, not everybody, but this beacon of, you know, that's supposed to be the safe and the honest place to go, there's some, you know, at times monkey business from some of the actors going on within that sector, and it could really easily undermine the whole movement. It's like, hey guys, enough is enough. Right.
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect. And there's some gray areas and nuances that are involved in this situation. But I mean, you know, if you're gonna preach one thing, well, then you need to practice it yourself.
You know, it reminds me of this. I recently moved to Pittsburgh, but grew up in the Southwest, and there was a school in Albuquerque, New Mexico called Highland High. And as it turns out, they had started importing a lot of the athletes for their basketball team and football team. And these kids were like 2 years older than all the other kids. You know, they'd never gone to middle school anywhere. They were just sort of plucked from different urban situations, and they dominated, you know. So if you're cheating to win a high school basketball championship, or if it'd be like, you know, shooting a bunch of kids on Little League with steroids just so they can throw the ball 90 miles per hour. I mean, you got, when are you gonna, what can you do that's not corrupt? I mean, can we just have some degree of values and morals without sounding sanctimonious? I mean, and what you alluded to is just pure hypocrisy. If you're always pointing the finger at Jamie Dimon, but then you go in your own little cabal and syndicate and do the exact same thing, then that's hypocritic. You know, that kind of behavior is just, once you discover, it's almost like when some of these televangelists went down and inglorious, you know, always asking for money. Then you see that they got these gigantic mansions, and then they have like 5 girlfriends on the side. You know, it's like, come on. I mean, let's anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, or, you know, I was thinking, like, you know, like the high school valedictorian who's the head of the student council, and then, you know, 2 weeks before graduation, you also find out that she's the biggest pot dealer at the high school. I guess pot's not that big of a deal anymore, but, you know, it's not, again, it's not everybody, it's not everywhere, but gosh darn it, if we're going to preach, this is pure money, you know, however you want to say it, this is honest money, right? Well, then be honest about it. And
that's it. Keep it simple, keep it real simple. You know, I have to give a shout out to Stephen St. Angelo. He's always been very, very weary of anything. He's very modest. He charges, you know, very little for his service. It's just fantastic. And he's always been warning people along the way about some of these sort of things, just to protect the integrity. It's almost like in golf, you don't allow you can't say to your partner, he's 10 feet away from the cup going, oh, you don't have to putt that putt's good. It's like, well, that's not fair to the 70 other people that are on the golf course at the time playing in the same tournament. You got to protect the field. That simple. So,
and I think the big warning is that if Wall Street Silver could have evolved into a situation where there was such scandal and controversy, right? That and really they were a pure member-driven movement. if Wall Street Silver could have moved into that arena, you know, that's like, to me, that's like you said, like the televangelist, or, you know, or the high school valedictorian, you know, experiencing some big kind. Like, we need to be careful. And, you know, I'm excited that there's new leadership there. I'm looking forward to a new era there, and transparency, and
accountability. If you see anything that starts to look a little like they're dancing in the gray zone,
yeah,
post about it. The first warning signal with the bad guys was when people did question it, then all of a sudden they were banned, or
they were disappeared.
Yeah, they were censored, or they were blocked. So that would be the first. That's when we knew things were trouble for Jimbo and Ivan, is when we started seeing that they were censoring. Those always the first, just like we've seen recently with, you know, we'll talk about big tech or whatever.
Right.
What other questions did we?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
On behalf of everyone watching, you've got, you know, a keen level of insight, and always enjoy talking to you, John. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you again real soon.
Yeah, great to be with you, Ron. Thank you.